Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the One Last Cast podcast. My name is Jonathan, and as always, we have Meryl Selesky here. Say hi, Meryl.
Yo, how's it going?
We're coming up. We had our first, quote unquote, false fall front that moved through the other day. It felt nice, and now it's back to summer again. So, I have you seen that meme on the internet where the 12 seasons of Texas, where basically it's we have summer, then devil's armpit, then false fall, and
That's
and then
no, I
you,
haven't, but that sounds hilarious.
yeah, it's like the
Devil's
12 season.
armpit.
Yeah, and there's always this arrow. It's like you are here, and it's in the middle of summer or wherever it is.
Right,
I do know that winter is it's on the bottom. It says 5 days of actual winter, and then it goes into spring. So
right. We actually had a decent winter last year. It wasn't too
we
bad,
did. It definitely was. I'm excited to see what this year holds.
and I feel like we
But
have a a mild summer, but the days that it's hot, it's like really hot. But it's not. It wasn't like this long thing like from like early spring, late summer. It was kind of like it wasn't too bad. I felt like it wasn't too bad.
yeah, this I don't think this summer was that bad, especially considering most of the time the winds were okay. There was no. We had one major storm or two major storms, kind of pushed through. The last, obviously, Beryl, and then we had the, uh, I think Francis, the last one
Yeah.
that just went through, that missed us, but
Yeah.
it's been pretty good. We still have it's still hurricane season until basically the beginning of November, so knock on wood. But
Mhm.
it's been good.
I
Uh,
think they showed I saw it online. They showed like the amount, how many hurricanes hit after October or in October, and I think we had four over the last 100 years or something, or was it
it's
two,
something
three
like
hundred
that.
years? I don't know. It was like 200 years. I think we only showed four that been recorded.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
I just remember Harvey was around September, October ish. I don't remember exactly when, but it was
Which one?
around that
Harvey?
time. Yeah,
I thought
Harvey.
no, it was around my birthday. I
Oh,
remember.
really?
Yeah,
Okay,
August 29th.
around September. So
Yeah,
yeah, it all blends together now.
yeah.
So
September, anytime, August and October. It's all the same. It's all the same.
yeah, so thanks everybody for tuning in to the One Last Cast podcast. We definitely enjoy you being on here. We definitely give a shout out to our sponsors before we get going. If you're looking for our favorite saw plastics, that one that swims on the fall, built-in rattle. You're looking for knock and tail lures. Awesome saw plastics. They are my go-to, and I know Meryl uses them a lot too. Especially looking forward to using them during the flounder run. Say that every single flounder run, but they just are awesome. Go look for them for yourself and get some. Go to knockandtaillures.com. Also, 4A printing. If you haven't looked at our Facebook page, we recently got an order of towels from 4A printing. They look awesome with our new logo. Aaron also sent us some that license plate that he did just as a freebie. That was awesome as well. So if you're looking for custom stuff like that, go reach out to Aaron at 4A printing. He'll get you hooked up. Oh yeah, there you go. The custom license plate. Uh, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to use it for, but it look awesome on the wall. I was trying to figure out, if it's illegal to put in my car, but
That's
um,
exactly what I told him. I said I want to put that on my car. I think this license plate you'd really appreciate when you're looking down on it, on how
mhm.
much input was done on the color of its back, and it doesn't
Yeah,
look like one of those like fake gray trouts. There's actually detail in it, and there's a lot of metallic. And when you're cooking trout, sometimes or filleting trout, and you put it in water or ice, you could see those little like small little, I don't know what they are, but they look like small little pieces of glitter, and that's what's on this. Not the trout stuff, but the glitter is on the
yeah.
license plate, and pretty cool, sick looking. And Aaron did an amazing job. Like I looking at it, I was just so stoked and like just so appreciative of the work and the craftsmanship that went behind it and the details. So I really appreciate that, Aaron. But yeah, even with the towels, he did it on a short notice. Big shout out to him for short notice. We had some North Carolina listeners that that listened to us, and they reached out to us and sent them a little care package. Uh, and yeah, man, those towels went with them, and looking forward to getting more and maybe some buffs. And I know we got a recommendation on some gear, so we'll talk about that later, though.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry
awesome.
to cut you off.
No, no, no. Also, definitely give a shout out to Dirty South Kayak Anglers. If you're looking for a Facebook group to talk fishing and kayaking up and down the Texas coast, go and search DSKA or Dirty South Kayak Anglers on Facebook. And of course, Brittany Selesky, Merrill's lovely wife. If you're looking for real estate here in Houston, either residential or commercial, reach out to her. You can reach her at 281-740-0498 or Brittany at Grindstone REG. I'm sorry, that's not the right email anymore. I have old show notes here. But you can reach her at 281-740-0498.
Yeah, it's
And
Brittany Selesky at gmail.com.
easy. First and
Yeah.
last name
Now, yeah.
at
And she, yeah.
gmail.com. So we've been talking a lot about, obviously, for you and I both, we're both saltwater anglers, hardly ever get to freshwater. Before we get into today's topic of my recent experience, if on the flip side has a kind of alluding to what happened, but I hear that you went to the Guadalupe recently and had a pretty interesting experience out there for freshwater. I know we
Yeah.
always get people talk to us and like, oh, one of the biggest comments, let's talk. Can you guys talk freshwater? I
Yes.
have very little experience, but you recently went. How'd that go?
Man, so I didn't realize how much fun I would have catching so much smaller bass. I mean, they weren't huge, like 1 to 2 pounders, but it was just so much fun just catching stuff, right? And I got so caught up with like going offshore, catching the big fish, long drawn out fights, that when I went to the Guadalupe River and then we're floating it, which we really didn't even float that much. We kind of just hung out at the condo and then just kicked it there and did pool stuff. But I've never been one that never got the concept of floating the river. I feel like it's just like, okay, we're here, floating the river. Until like maybe a couple years ago, I was like, man, I'm bringing me a fishing rod with me. So I brought a fishing rod with me, and then I caught like a 3 or 4 pound bass, like just off of the. So now I'm like stoked about floating the river. So now I want to go float the river because I get to go fishing, right? And then so there was a little bit background of like learning on what I want to throw and stuff like that. But this was a little bit different of an atmosphere for me because the river that I floated back then was different from the river that I was floating now. I think it was a little bit further downstream. No, I'm sorry, further upstream on the Guadalupe. And each area felt like it had its own different ecosystem, right? Like some of them had big boulders in deep water. Some of them had shallows with a little dip of like 1 to 2 foot drop of water, and then had structures on the sides, whether it was more boulders, some trees, some houses and their little docks and stuff. So there was different areas that had different systems of the river. Some had like dams where like it held a lot of water and spilled over. And so each one I felt like when I was tackling it or adjusting to what was in front of me, like obviously throwing all these different lures, seeing what worked. So I'll give you an example of one area. It was real shallow water through this stream area. It was real shallow, and it had
How shallow is shallow?
like 1 foot, below 1 foot.
Okay.
So it's like less than 1 foot, and then it drops to like 2 to 3 feet, and that was it. And then it comes back up to 1 foot. And where I was catching them at is I'll throw a rooster tail downstream, and I'd let the rooster tail just sit there in the stream, do this number, and I'd pick up my rod and let it come up, and I'd let it go down, and I drop my rod a little bit, just in that slow stream as the stream was going that way, and I was catching fish that way versus just throwing it out there, reeling it in as it streams in the stream, and then it comes back at me. That technique maybe caught like one out of 20, 30 casts, maybe, versus the other one, you just threw it out there and you let it sit there, and it was almost every other cast. So, and, but I didn't know this. So, the Guadalupe has its own bass, like its own hybrid of a bass. I don't know if you
Oh
knew
yeah,
that.
the state fish is the Guadalupe bass.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
see brand new information because I was catching these bass and I was like, man, they look just like bass. They just don't look like the bass we catch. But they had some of those bass there too, though. They had those other bass and they had their unique bass, and I was catching all kinds of different species. So what I was throwing is like a small little rooster tail. For that was my money lure, and then I'd also throw like a little small white little jig, and then that was for a different area. And then I threw a Ned rig, like when I was in deeper water, and I was like deeper water, maybe like 5 feet, because it's not really deep on the Guadalupe.
Yeah.
There's some areas that's deep, like 5 to 10 feet, maybe a little bit deeper. Um, but those areas, I was punching more of the bottom, and with the Ned rig, and then I also threw a fluke for some runs. So the one with the boulders in the middle with the deep water on the sides, right? You know what I'm talking? It has a boulder and then just deep water rushing around the
Yeah.
sides. I tackled those different. I felt like the fish were more on the boulders, wading downstream, or on the side of the boulders. So I would have to throw like a weedless up the boulder and then come along the sides, and boom. That's where I was catching my bigger fish at. I was like in 4 pound range, bass fish and other fish that were like pretty big size, unique ones I've never seen before. Um, and so I was catching those fish with the big boulders, that being different. I did throw a topwater frog, and had no luck with that. But I wanted to catch one on a frog there, but I didn't have any luck. So there was other areas where we went down where it was like semi deep, like 5, 6 feet, and it was just a channel by people's houses. Those I was mostly just throwing up against close to their docks, and I'd reel it in, and it seemed to me that the fish would follow that lure before it decided to commit. So I felt like they were up against the structure, and they'd follow the bait out, and then when they felt like it was right there to attack, when the lure got close to me, and man, those fish hit it hard. So that was fun. Um, and what other structure?
Did you do any drop shots?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
I didn't.
So with docks like that, there's I mean, like I said, I have very limited experience with freshwater, but
Uh,
with dock structures, I usually only throw two baits, and that's like the chatter bait. Like you just throw parallel to the structure, and then the
uh,
drop shot. So if they're not following it out, they're not really active. I'm just pitching the drop shot over there, and just like really enticing, because enticing those bass, because there's usually fish on them. So
drop shot. What is that like? Is that like a
drop
Ned
shot,
rig?
no. So a drop shot is you have it's a suspended bait. So you have a like a little weight on the bottom, and probably about a foot and a half up. You can move it to where, depending where you want. You just have it's called a drop shot hook, and usually it's a worm, so it just spins, and you basically just barely touch your rod tip, and it just flutters like that, and
Oh
it
wow.
catches fish. Uh, doesn't usually catch a lot of big fish, but it catches fish. So
Mm, that's cool. I know Justin said rainbow trout. Yes, we did catch rainbow trout there too. That was we caught trout. I don't know if they were rainbow trout, but there was trout.
on
And
a
I was like,
hot
well, we
dog,
catch. No, not on a hot. He caught his on a hot dog. I caught mine on the rooster tail,
yeah,
the little small bait. I caught it on the rooster tail on that one. Um, yeah, those different areas. There was somewhere like trees were up on the water, laying there. I was working that tree with weedless, catching bass there, and And yeah, man, it was a good time, man, just catching a whole bunch of fish. So now when they say, hey, we're gonna go float the river, instead of me being like, nah, I'm gonna chill, I'm not going. It's like, yeah, I'm going and get all my fishing gear ready, because now it's a fun time for me, not just
it
for
rem-
them, but for
it
myself too.
reminds me of number one. One of the things that I've always kind of appreciated is, at least for fishing, is that if you go somewhere and fish, and especially if you haven't been there before, everything feels so new. Even though, like, we know how to fish, like we can throw artificial lures, we can do live bait, we can do whatever. But a new area, it's a whole new ball game. Um, and areas like that on the Guadalupe where it's you are there's these boulders right here. There's this deep little rip. There's a little bit of rapids. There's these docks. There's these overhanging trees, riprap, and that just sounds like a great time because it's a little bit different every single place.
All right.
And it also, catching all these little fish, like I said, they're not big. It reminds me of days whenever I was growing up as a kid and, using dead shrimp and just catching the heck out of sand trout and croaker. And I didn't care because I was just like, every cast, I'm just pulling up little sand trout and croaker.
The
Every
best
single
fishermen out there.
yeah, every single cast, because I was like, oh man, if I keep using a whole shrimp, I'm gonna run out of bait. So I start cutting them in half, and every single one is a bite, and the action's strong, and
Right.
that's what it reminds me of, and I definitely appreciate days like that. So
Right. Yeah, it was definitely fun. My son had fun. He was catching a whole bunch of fish. The little bait fish. Like, Dad, I'll catch bait. And we didn't use no live bait, but he was catching a whole bunch of minnows and stuff there. So it's definitely good to take the kids too. There's areas where you take the kids and they can go have fun and stuff like that, and you don't have to worry about them hitting some rapids and floating down the river or something. They got some protected areas for the kids, so it was a good time.
yeah,
But yeah, man, that the last day, I think I ended up trying to throw a frog again. Every morning, I at least try to throw the frog, and I didn't have any luck.
yeah.
I had one
Well,
blow up. I had one blow up on a frog.
well,
It was the
that's why you
day.
go fish. That's
Yeah,
why you fish, like for that. So
that,
next time
yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna get one next
So
time.
yeah, for sure. I'm not gonna quit on the frog. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Well, got everybody on the stream right now. Thank you guys for listening. Uh, I definitely want to give a kind of a reminder. If we are running a contest right now, our September contest, all you got to do is make sure to like our Facebook page, and then also send us an email or a message on Facebook. You can send us an email at onelastcastpodcast@gmail.com. And what you're going to do is send us a picture of you fishing, just you out there fishing. We would love to. Basically, we want content for us to use on our opening slide show that we run whenever we're starting up the stream. We want to see you guys fishing, kayak fishing even better, but it doesn't have to be. Um, and then we have a contest Facebook post out there on our Facebook page at one last cast. Or I'm sorry, facebook.com/one last cast podcast. Find that post, just share that, and you will be entered to win a Shimano reel for choice up to $300 value. So it's we definitely want you guys to participate, and also we want to give back to y'all guys because we love y'all guys, and you guys are making everything possible. So give that a shot. We'll be doing the drawing at the beginning of October, so you have about half a month left. But get on it because if you forget, you forget. So um,
yeah. Tell your friends too, like that. Tell your friends about it. It's a good opportunity for them to maybe get lucky. You know.
yeah, and like I said, it's free, so there's not there's nothing you have to do except for just follow the instructions. So just I think the basic thing is just go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/one last cast podcast. Find our Facebook posts on there and follow the instructions, and you'll be good to go. So uh, which, by the way, we are live every other Tuesday or try to be. So if you want to join us, again, just go to that Facebook page at facebook.com/one last cast podcast, or on YouTube or on Twitch. We're on there as well. You can join us live and talk to us, ask questions. Whenever you have guests, those are really good times to ask questions. Aaron, thanks again. You missed our shout out to you. Awesome job on those license plates and also those quick turnaround the towels. Thanks again. So, Meryl, the teaser to today's episode, what we really wanted to get into was about flipping the kayak. I do want to start out. Have you ever flipped your kayak?
Never. I'm too good.
Never. You're too good. Okay.
I'm no. I'm just kidding. No. So actually, I think was it Justin that was with me when we went out to Matagorda? I flipped a Revo. I don't know if it was with him with me. Might have been. But yeah, I flipped. I was in a Revo. I reached too far on the Revo, and the thing is, my body and my kayak told me like, bro, you're too far. But I did that extra little body shift. That was it. That sucker rolled. And the reason I like the Revo is because it's fast. It's a fast kayak. Our journeys in Matagorda, they take such a long distance to hit those shorelines. So I needed something fast, get me there fast, can bring me back fast. I actually recently sold my Revo. Regret it. Probably get another one.
Tisk 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 tisk.
Yeah, probably get me another one. But anyways, so I rolled it. Another time, that wasn't my first time though. I was in my Manta Ray. So Manta Ray was my upgrade from a Tarpon, right? I would say upgrade, but I like the Manta Ray better because it was like wider. And there was the Manta Ray that had the wheel on the back. I don't know if you guys remember that. The Manta Ray we could just pick up and roll it anywhere you wanted. It had that wheel on the back, that little small wheel. Didn't do so good in mud, but everything else it rolled like a G. Well, that one. So I was coming through Port O'Connor, and there was this. Some people might know where it's at. So the current rips through this one little skinny channel so fast, and it just rips through there, and you got sandbars on every side, and then some smaller canals. Well, it somehow the channel shifted, and my stringer was full of fish, and it yanked me. Like it yanked me so hard that when I try to counter, somehow like something happened where it went with when I tried to counter and I flipped. And then so all my stuff went over. Good thing the stringer was tied onto the yak, didn't lose any fish. But the weight of the fish in that big current made me flip. So one was reaching too far. The second one was maybe I should have. When you're coming up against big current like that, you notice I kind of felt like maybe I shouldn't do this, but I did it anyways to maybe throw the fish up on the kayak. And then those were my learning experiences from that situation. Maybe throw the
So
fish.
basically, Merrill is saying the last time he flipped was because he just caught too many fish and he just couldn't handle
No,
it.
no, that was one of the first times I flipped.
That's one of the
Right,
first times.
right. The last time was because I was doing something that I should, right? I was putting all my weight on one side and I was like, oh, I shouldn't do it. And then it happened.
Yeah, Aaron.
But
Aaron in the chat is saying that you just put too much gaff up on a stringer. So
that's what it was. Those gaff
yeah,
tops, man. They probably, that's what happened was the gaff top seen this situation. They're like, we're going to get them. We're going to
yeah.
swim upstream. And they come back racing downstream, teach them a lesson.
So for me, the times that I flipped, the first time I ever flipped, I did it on purpose. I took my kayak to Taylor Lake, my first ever kayak, and I really wanted to figure out how to flip it over and get back in the kayak. So that doesn't really count. Uh, the second time I flipped was actually I was standing in my Tarpon 160, and I was sight casting redfish. I hooked one, and it started pulling me, and I didn't at that point. I was still fairly new. I was trying to figure out should I sit down or should I still fight the fish standing up. Um, and I decided to stand, but that was a bad decision because the fish was pulling me, and it didn't realize that there was like a bar coming up, and my kayak ran aground, and basically the kayak just stopped, and I kept going, and it's more of I fell out of the kayak because the kayak didn't really flip over, but I fell out of the kayak. Um, I ended up losing that redfish. So,
That hurts the
uh,
most. That
oh
that
yeah,
one hurts the most, right? Those.
yeah.
Oh wait,
And
wait. Sorry. Have you ever telephone poled a
what's a
kayak?
telephone pole? What's that?
That's with a kayak straight up.
No, I have not. No.
Okay, all right.
So the second
Keep going.
time, the third
Okay.
time, I'm sorry, I flipped was in the surf. I was actually coming back in, and I got sideways of the surf, and I just flipped over. Luckily, nothing broke. Everything was fine. Everything's all good. But that was that time. The last time I flipped was something like 10 plus years ago. Um, and more recently, at beginning to show, I alluded to or not alluded to, but I talked about that front that we had blowing 30 miles an hour, north winds, and I hadn't been fishing in a while, so I was like, I need to go out, or I want to go out. I'm going to head out there, despite 30-mile-an-hour winds. I have a couple places I was checking out, and when I got to my first location at like 5:30, I'm like, it's too dark, it's windy, I'm by myself. I'm not really confident. I really want to make this paddle. So I went somewhere else. And this somewhere else, basically, you have this channel that's coming out. I was expecting, what was my intention was that because of that north wind, that water from that back channel or the back lake area was going to be pushing out. And I could fish that channel for the redfish and trout that are coming out of there and potentially flounder. Um, and I made that, I got out there. I had my motor just kind of motored out there. It was a little bit wet, definitely very windy, and just got out there. Had a great fishing, not a great fishing, had a good fishing day, not a great fishing day, a good fishing day. Some trout, lost a couple flounder, and it was just with the conditions, it was a good day. Just a lot of people when they have those high wind days, they don't head out there, and to me, I think they're missing on some good fishing. But also, I understand because it's not fun sometimes, and it can be a little bit dangerous. Um, so I'm in my links. It's around 36 inches wide, very safe, stable, completely fine with it. Um, and recently I got a micro power pole. Like I found it on a marketplace, a good deal. I've had it probably a couple times, been using it. And today I was like, I'm going to go strictly with the micro power pole. I usually bring my stakeout stick with me. Um, but I've like the micro power pole does its job. Along the way back, I'm along the way back, I'm cruising along this channel, and I'm like, man, that really looks like a pot of redfish just busting up bait along the way out. And I'm like, I gotta get over there. So I went over there, motored over there. I stopped, and I wasn't thinking because I'm like, that really does look like a pot of redfish just busting up bait. I pushed the button for my micro power pole. It pulls down, and I'm kind of like looking up, trying to see where they're going, and I didn't realize that my momentum's going one way, and the current and the winds are going another way. I'm basically turning, and I finally realized that, oh shoot, I'm kind of going sideways here. And I'm leaning, and I'm like, oh no, this isn't going to end well. And I look down, and I immediately see like my phone was like just tucked under my leg. I'm like, oh shoot, there's my phone right there. And I flipped over. Um, Luckily, it's like 2 feet of water, not too bad. Like I can touch the bottom, but anything that wasn't strapped down went into the water. And I had my Bixby remote. It was in my life jacket, and it in the side pocket, and it kind of flipped out. My paddle came out. My check it stick went to the bottom. My phone was gone, and I'm like, shoot, man. And I'm in the water, pushing the kayak, and I finally kind of get it upright, and I'm trying to push against it, and then I realized I can't move anymore because a top water that was just laying out in the deck kind of got stuck on my life jacket, and it was stuck onto the kayak. And I'm like, oh man, this is horrible. So calm down, um, you know, just rip out that top water, put it back down, and I like reach over and I get my paddle because it's floating away, put it onto the kayak, and I'm like, oh man, my I see my remote for the Bixby motor floating away. Um, they're designed to float, which is a great feature. Uh, and I was about to take a step to go get it, but then I realized my phone's in the water right here. If I go get that remote, I'm gonna like move off by where I fell into the water by like 10-20 feet, and I'm never gonna find my phone, or potentially I'll never find my phone. So I'm like, just if I find it, I'll find it later. um, and so now my kayak is in the right position, and it's sort of anchored because of the micro power pole is deployed. And I kind of like stick it in a little bit as hard as I can to kind of just get it in there. That way we don't go anywhere. And I realize I can't feel anything on the bottom because I have like flip flops on. So I remember getting my flip flops and I tried tossing them into my kayak, but it's so windy that they flew out. And I didn't want to move again, so I got my paddle and just fished it back. It's horrible, horrible situation going on. And so I'm right there. I was near a launch, and there's some people fishing at the launch, and they kind of I heard them like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm fine, I'm good." So thanks for those who are paying attention. And now here comes the fun part. I'm trying to figure out what's in the water and what am I missing. So I'm now barefoot walking around. It's all kind of soft sand, mud, and I'm going around, and I find my spoon that I was using at one point that was in the water. Kind of pricked my toe, so I came across my check it stick. So I'm like, okay, I'm in the right area. I'm finding all these things, and then I feel something that doesn't feel right. Like, what is this? Like, it feels like a piece of shell, but it doesn't actually feel like a piece of shell. What is this? I pick it up. It's my freaking car keys. uh, it was so my box, the crate behind my kayak is closed, and but I guess there's a gap. Whenever if you turn it upside down, there's a gap right there, and I guess it slipped out. So my car keys ended up in the water, and I didn't even know it. And I spent the
That
next
was a close one.
yeah, that was a close
Jeez.
one because I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have checked it. Um, and I spent the next hour just stomping around that area. Eventually found my phone. Um, and then at that point, I spent another half an hour trying to figure out how to my power micro power pole unit wasn't working anymore. It wasn't responding to my remote, so I was trying to figure out how to not keep not undeploy it. Get the stake out. Uh, I never it never occurred to me just to like just pull it out, but troubleshooted it and it just didn't work. But it ended up just pulling it out, and the savior of the day, because I still had like 100 200 yards to get to the back to our launch, was Bixby. The motor has an emergency system where basically if you tap the throttle control like I'm sorry, the kill switch 5 times, it just goes to emergency power, and it switches on to half power, so it just goes. So I managed to limp back to the boat ramp, not the boat
Oh,
ramp, but the
nice.
launch. Um, it took a while because it only goes half power, and we're going against the wind at that point. But yeah, so that's
So,
my recent experience
so you
flipping
never
my
tried to even
kayak.
look for the remote or anything? You're just like,
No,
ah.
it floated away, and I from where I was, it could have been really anywhere. Like I lost track of it, and especially since I spent so long looking for my phone, I uh, mainly because if I turned around and went with the wind to go look for the my remote, and if I didn't find a remote, then I would have to limp back in half power. I knew that, and I didn't want to risk that. The remote I have plenty of remotes at home, so it's
Oh,
fine.
okay. So one
I'm
remote can work on.
Yeah, I just have to pair it. So
Oh wow, that's a pretty cool feature. I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. So I have like three remotes at home, and I'm fine.
Mm.
Um, I
Yeah,
mean,
the
they're like
diversion area will get you like that, buddy. You got to stay out of the diversion area. You know, it's a lot of stuff going on in there.
oh yeah, but yeah, I think that all that happening all at once um, made me realize that number one, I got to strap everything down, man. um, and it's not a matter of like you know if but when you flip. So you always have to make that preparation. I know for both of us, we preach safety. Luckily, I was in an area where I wasn't too. It wasn't that bad. Um, the worst that could have happened, I would have lost my phone, lost a couple gear, but oh yeah, my power pole is out of commission because it's not turning on. So I'm talking to power pole right now to figure that out. Also, my low rents HDS is not working anymore. So I don't know what happened with that one. That one I haven't troubleshooted too much, um, but yeah.
Uh,
So
I, I I forgot another time that I flipped. This was in Florida. I telephoned. I think there's a video out there. Uh, Adrian Guzman.
yeah.
Yeah, he posted it, and he was laughing his butt off. But so I underestimated these waves coming in. Well, there was like 2 to 3s, and I was like, man, let's do it. And he's like, Merrill, I don't know, dude. Today seems a little. I was like, bro, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. So I'm timing out the waves, right? Okay, all right, cool. Right there. Like, so they were coming, like sometimes you can see these waves come in patterns. And every third wave that came through, it kind of mellowed out a little bit, and you had a small window to shoot out there and get out there with smaller waves. Um, so I timed it out, man. I jump in there like thinking like, yeah, the kayak he let me borrow was, man, it wasn't the most comfortable. I think it didn't have a seat or something. So I was like, I don't care. I want to go off there, which was good though because I caught like big snapper over there. But we made our way out there. Boom! I jump on the kayak. I punch through it. Everything works perfect. Right on my way back, I'm looking from the backside. I'm thinking like, oh man, they're just like our waves, like so I just got to figure out the right way. And I was like, man, that's nothing to worry about. Well, these waves are different, right? They can go from like half a foot to like 2 to 3 feet in like no time, and then just come crashing down like that because they have deeper. What is it called?
Guts.
Guts. They have
Yeah.
deeper guts than us. Like you can like the first gut can just drop dramatically, like right at the beginning of the beach. The first gut's deep, second gut's deep, the third gut's even deeper, and these sandbars come up real high, so that causes for more wave action. Um, and I miscalculated that wave, and I was thinking when I was coming up to it, it was right at the third sandbar, and I was like, man, I got this, right? So, man, I get on top of it. This sucker somehow just picks me up. The front end crashes down. I was like, man, I didn't even try to fight it, dude. I said, screw this. Because I'm like straight up and down. I just jump out. Like, oh, screw this. I'm not even going to sit there and try to rescue myself and eat it with the kayak over the top of me. I'm like straight up and down on the kayak. I was like, oh, jumping out. So I just jumped out, everything. I was able to grab the kayak, hold on to the back of the kayak. As I was coming in, everybody's like, "Oh man, you okay? You all right?" I said, "Bro, this is not my first time flipping a kayak." Like at that point, I'm like, just another day kayak fishing, no big deal. Everything was strapped down. The only thing that wasn't strapped down was the net, but the net floated and it floated to shore, so everything was good. So I didn't lose anything, but yeah, man, it was a miscalculated the waves in
Yeah.
Florida, but I won't make that mistake again. So I
Yeah.
mean, I learned, right. Like my learning experience from that situation is just get out of the kayak early, right, and then just hold on to the back end. Your weight and those waves, the waves are going to push your kayak forward, but the weight of your body is going to hold you back, hold the kayak from rushing forward. So that's one way to do it. There's other different techniques and strategies. My favorite strategy is the drift sock. Just throwing a 50-foot string of with the drift sock at the back end of it that's strapped onto both sides of the back of the kayak, so it's evenly balanced as the socks holding the back of your kayak evenly. As the waves come through over, it pulls you back. You know, that's probably the best I've ever experienced. I know some people like to ride the waves all fancy with their paddle and their skinny kayak, like oh, but everybody has their own technique and stuff like that. But that was my that was probably my last. That was the last time I flipped it.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
so what did you learn? Like, what's your learning experience
So
from?
number one is uh, the reason why I flipped. So I know that you're not supposed to go broadside to any wave. That's a bad deal with the kayak. Um, so whenever you have a stakeout pole and you anchor, you kind of go a little bit slower because you usually have rope, you have some line out, and it doesn't go like it doesn't like you turn on a dime. You're like you're just stuck. You have some leeway and you can kind of get to where you need to go. So I've been in situations where similar to where the situation I was in. I think with a stakeout pole, I would have been fine because it would just wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have been staked out immediately. So number one, be aware, always be aware of your surroundings. Um, this time it was a combination of like a perfect combination of a little bit of carelessness, testing out new things I wasn't really familiar with, and just that perfect storm of the water coming and the waves kind of coming. Um, and also, it also made me appreciate more that I took the time earlier in my career of fishing life as a kayaker to that I understood if I ever flip my kayak, I know how to flip it back over. So in this situation, obviously I was in 2 feet of water. So I was completely fine. Really in no danger of anything happening. But I could definitely see where, whenever I was going into the water, I could start panicking. If I wasn't in the right mind or if I was in deeper water, it could have been bad. But I had that experience to kind of back up and like, okay, first step, get everything back over because the kayak is your lifeline. Um, and heck, if I was going to walk all the way back, so I really needed my kayak back. um,
Yeah, that'll do it, right?
yeah. um, and just also being calm, I
That's
want to
actually
think,
probably the most. That's the most important thing is remaining calm.
mhm,
For me, is that's a good point because especially when you can't touch the floor, right? If you flip a kayak and you can't touch the floor, you're gonna probably panic, right? Because if you're touching the floor, I can get on, right? I'll figure it out. But not touching the floor, that I think brings a panic kind of, some kind of panic when you can't touch the floor.
yeah,
And when you panic and you're not staying calm, it almost feels like your energy goes really high and then just dumps. So then you are so tired and fatigued because like you got panic, you're paranoid, you're trying to figure things out, and your heart's racing, and then your body just adrenaline just dumps. It's kind of like an adrenaline dump, and you just at that point you're tired, you're exhausted, you can barely move, and that those can cause more and more issues as you're trying to get back on the kayak. You're
yep,
extremely exhausted, so definitely don't go alone, right? But staying calm is so important. I've been in that situation where I did when I flipped the Revo. I didn't realize I couldn't touch the floor, right? But I felt like I wasn't panicking or I wasn't paranoid, but for some reason my heart was just racing,
yeah.
and I just
But
remember being
that's completely normal though, because your body recognizes the situation that you're in and is trying to make sure that you survive. Like in my case, like the not panicking part helped me make sure I found my phone because if I panicked and I started trying to do everything, I could have been 10 yards from where I actually flipped over and I wouldn't have found my phone. So my best, I actually, because I didn't panic, the best case scenario happened. I got everything back. Obviously, the best case scenario would have been not flipping over, but um, I got everything back, and really the only losses I have right now are my two majorly expensive electronics. So
Yeah, yeah, those are gonna cost you. But the good
yeah,
thing is I had a PFD on, right?
yeah,
So, but the
yeah,
PFD was like all up in my neck. So like, and I'm trying to get on. So how I ended up getting on, there's several techniques and strategies to get on. Mine was grab the opposite end of the kayak and try to push your weight on that back end to slide up forward. Because if I pulled myself, I'm just gonna keep rolling. Those kayaks will just keep rolling because they're so
yeah,
slender and skinny and long. So pushing down on that end that I'm trying to pull myself was the strategy that I use, and then kind of just bring my body. Once I brought my torso on, I could easily swing my legs around and get up, back up on the seat. But I just remember being completely tired and exhausted, like within less than a minute or two. Um, and it was like, wow, that was crazy. That was such an experience. Like, why am I so tired? Why am I so exhausted? Because mentally, I felt like I wasn't panicking or I wasn't paranoid. I did notice that I couldn't touch the floor, but it happened, right? And when I was able to
yeah.
get back on the repo and get all the stuff, most of my stuff was strapped down anyways. I didn't lose too much. I think I lost a rod and reel and maybe like a small tackle bag. At that time, I carried a lot of tackle with me, so that's how long ago that was. Now it's like a little small bag. That's all I
Yeah.
take with me. Two
But one
rods.
one of the benefits of the Revo is that the Revo, because it's so narrow, it's much easier to flip back over. If you were, it didn't sound like you flipped it, but either way, it's it's since it's so narrow, it's easier to flip back over. It actually makes it another thing for me is makes me realize I need to go out and test it because I've always been the like Tarpon 160, Revo 13, very narrow kayaks. Um, I've
Those turn like they flip like this a lot.
yeah,
Like so like if you grab it like when I grabbed it first time, it just did this number again. I was like, man, so that's what made me like, okay, now I just got to figure out to so it doesn't keep turning like a dang I don't know how to explain it, but
like a screw, you know.
yeah, like a screw
Yeah.
was to push weight on that backside and kind of throw my body
Yeah.
over the.
But
Yeah,
for
that
me, I've realized for I have never actually like I said, whenever I started kayak fishing or just kayaking in general, and I went out to Taylor Lake with my Tarpon 160 and flipped the kayak over and figured out how to get back into it, flipped it back over. I've never done that with a like my links. It's a completely different experience because instead of what 28, 29 inches width, I have 36 inches to work with. And that's a completely different experience because with the Revo, I can get to one side all the way. I can reach over and get to the other side of the Revo and pull it over. That's what I did before, or with the Tarpon. With think about like a Lynx or a Pro Angler, you can't reach across the other side unless you're just a giant person. And imagine you can't reach across the other side and you can't touch the bottom. How are you going to flip the kayak over? It's a little bit
yeah,
different.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's a
I
good
I know
point.
I know the theory behind it, where like you can kind of like rock it back and forth to get the momentum, and then eventually you get it back over. But
Right.
I realize now that that's probably something I should practice because I just don't have experience with that. So
So
yeah, if you see me
yeah,
out
so
there, if you
I
see me out
jumped
there with
off
the
of
flip kayak, just
yeah,
ignore me.
yeah. So I jumped off the PA 14 a couple times. Like I just jumped off, just jumped in the water. Like I was super hot. And I'm like, man, this is too hot. I'm in deep water. It's not big current. So I jumped off of the kayak and got back on. How I got on that the PA 14 is it's got a handle in the front end.
Yeah,
So I just come up front. I come up the front end, right?
yeah,
And it's got two handles on the side, so you could actually pull yourself up, grab the handles, pull yourself all the way up, and go up on the other. Um, I forgot how me and Aaron got on. Aaron, when he flipped the PA 14, I forgot how we did that one for him. I think I was on the other side of the kayak. So he was on one side, I was on the other side. So I grabbed his arm all the way from the other side and held both of ours or held that back into the kayak and then pulled them up over the other side. I don't know if I'm doing a good demonstration.
Yeah.
right? So I'm on one end. I'm on the opposite end he is in the kayak that he's over, and I grabbed his arm and helped him pull up over back over the top and get on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One other method that Aaron is in the chat actually that he
yeah.
mentioned that also I know of is put a tether on each side to have like straps, and basically you can kind of use the physics to kind of pull it. So you strap one side of the kayak and kind of go underneath or go over and kind of pull it, lean on it one way, and basically
Hmm.
it'll help you flip the kayak back over. He also said those HOs were a pain in the ass to get over. So
I bet. But
yeah,
I mean, we had those two. We caught some big ass redfish that day, though, so it was worth it, Aaron. It was worth it. We caught some huge redfish, like I mean, a hair, like right there as is before legal, before illegal or whatever. But it
yeah,
was like right under 28 inches. Yeah, we did pretty good that day.
yeah.
It
So
was worth it, Aaron.
uh, so I guess like any other kind of lessons that you would take away from flipping your kayak over, besides obviously I definitely recommend if you have the opportunity to kind of test it out that way. Obviously don't bring gear, just bring your kayak and figure out how to flip your kayak over. And like I said, it's a matter of if not when.
Yeah, you got learn the hard way. Take your electronics with you. No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
a
I
so
said
you
that wrong.
know.
It's a matter
Yeah,
of
yeah.
yeah, whatever.
So you know the consequences of flipping your kayak. Now, obviously, know the limitations of your kayak. I one of the Revo situation, I chose to test the limits of that kayak, and I paid the price. The other one was a miscalculation on the current, and the other one, but like there was a sense that told me, I guess follow your gut, right? There was a sense that told me don't do this. It's dangerous going through that current with all this fish on the stringer. And I did it anyways. Another one was maybe miscalculating those waves coming up and dropping down so fast, or crashing that fast. Uh, a better part of me told me, like, man, maybe you should just get out sooner. So I feel like there was that voice in me to say, like, there's a safer route and then there's that route to test the limits. And I feel like those times I chose to test the limits and paid the price. So I guess be safe or maybe learn the hard way like I did and test the
Or
limits.
just listen to our advice and hopefully you learn from that and you don't have to go through
Yeah, yeah, that's a better.
it.
That's a better. That's even better. But yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, I don't think just learn from each situation you're in.
Yeah. And I think, and that kind of goes to the overall idea for all of our trips and what we kind of preach here is every single trip should be a learning experience. If you go out there and you're not learning anything, it's not a good trip. Um, or at least I don't think it's a good trip. So every single situation, and the reason why I went out on that day is because invariably on tournament day it's going to be on a front, it's pulling through, it's going to be blowing 30 miles an hour, and um, we're going to still have to fish it and catch fish. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I went out there. So obviously, be safe about it, but at the same time it's sometimes fun to push the limits of what you can do and what you can do fishing wise. So it's not going to be every day where it's calm winds and great fishing. So just get out there and fish when you can.
Yeah, Jay shared some pretty cool stories. I'm gonna go back and read them. Man, I love to hear these stories, so I'll go back and read that. But or maybe do you want to share it with the group? Well, we've got a
Uh,
little bit of time, right?
yeah, yeah. So he's not going to mention any names, but he rescued his buddy one time. He thought he was in shallow water when he went to stake down, and he fully extended, and he realized it was too deep, never hit the bottom, and he went head first trying to stay. I guess he went head first trying to stake down. Jeez. He tried to get back in his kayak, but it kept flipping. So he got to him and told him to calm down, try not to get to, and also to try to get to the kayak into the kayak by from the rear.
Oh,
That
that's a good
way,
one.
yeah.
Yes.
And thankfully he got in safely. Only lost a couple lures. It wasn't me. He says, "No, it's not. It wasn't Jonathan. It was his other friend." um, so
Jay, you're hurting our feelings. I thought me and Jonathan are your only buddies here. Yeah, are you cheating on us with somebody else? Anywho.
but yeah, no, that's also good, kind of a good tale right there. And whenever you're trying to get back in the kayak, obviously you get back into the kayak any way you can, but um, with the Revo, with my Revo, or even the tarpon, getting through the back using it in a tank well was a good way. If you try to go through the side, one of the things is like, because especially for narrow kayaks, if you go in through the side and you like overshoot or undershoot, you have enough weight where basically will flip the kayak over again.
Yeah.
So going through the either the front or the rear of the kayak, where you're kind of balancing your weight on the middle, that's the way to go.
All right.
Yeah. So before we hop off, I know we covered a lot, and we could probably keep talking, but right now fall is coming up. If not, we're not exactly fall yet. It looks like next week it's not going to be fall either. But what are you looking forward to this season?
Um, man, I'm actually like, so I've been like honed in on tarpon, and I kind of like just took a break from that. It's just been tough for me, tougher than I like. I'll have some good days, then I'll have more bad days than good days. So I think doing a little bit of inshore fishing, freshwater fishing, builds my confidence back up. So man, I just like I want to get to a point where I just get to fish with a lot of different people. I kind of miss guiding when I was guiding all the time. Might get back into that full time. Just stick to it. It was a good time. It was a fun time. So maybe more fishing. That would be just doesn't matter. Just more fishing, freshwater, saltwater, whatever. I'm just more fishing, whatever it is.
Well, that sounds fun. For me, it's I'm gonna definitely just concentrate on honing in on trout again. One of the biggest things that I've realized is, because I don't fish as much anymore. Um, it's hard to really find that pattern that I'm so used to finding. A few years ago, it could be I'd be fishing all summer, and then I take like a couple weeks off and I go back and it's like nothing. I didn't miss anything. But now it's because I only fish kind of sparsely. I've never really developed a good pattern. I really want to get back to just developing a good pattern. I know fall is kind of during the fall time is kind of cheating, because kind of the fish are everywhere, but or at least the areas I fished are everywhere and they're a little more active. But getting back to that and doing the same thing, kind of developing and building that confidence, because I'm trying to build myself up towards winter so that I can um, endure those days of just throwing a corky and getting that one or two hits for those big trout.
Mm. Oh, so big trout hunting, huh?
Yeah,
No, man, that's so addicting though. Big trout hunting,
yeah,
like that
but
one thump on a fat boy, is my favorite feel on a rod and reel. Like that thump that you get from a fat boy. That for me. That's better than top water. I
oh
like
yeah,
that better than top water and tails. Don't know what it is about it, but when you feel that thump, that line goes
especially
by.
especially if you have a really really good rod. And
Ah,
so like if you have one of those production rods that I use, like for me, I'm using a Waterloo Phantom as my main rod right now. It's perfectly fine. The reason why I use it, and I said this before, is because I can find it basically anywhere, for like at Academy or any rod shop here that's any place that sells rods here in Texas. Um, and I know what it feels like. But having one of those higher end rods and having that exposed rod seat, so that your fingers are over on the blank itself, those corky hits just like are 100 times better, because like especially those good ones, it like sometimes
absolutely.
it just feels like it's just, if you feel the bite in your bones, you don't feel it on your hand, you feel it in your bones,
It like
so
vibrates to your soul.
yeah,
Like you feel the
exactly.
vibration to your soul. Oh yeah, looking forward to
Yeah,
that wintertime bite, big
yeah.
trout. Oh
But
yes.
you definitely need a different mindset. If I go into it just not confident, um, and you know, instead of grinding it out in an area where I know they're going to show up at some point for that one or two bites, I'm gonna be like, you know what? I gave it a shot. It's been 2 hours. I'm done. So yeah. Oh, Fidencio, he's saying he's got his trout tag and he tends to use it.
How you do it, buddy? Bake that
Yeah,
trout.
yeah, get that 30 incher.
Yeah.
So all right, guys. Thanks everybody for listening. This has been One Last Cast podcast. Before we hop off, definitely want to get a shout out to our sponsors again. 4A Printing. If you're looking for, any custom merch or like towels, buffs, apparently license plates. Aaron's going to do that. He has all the hookups. He can get you a good, nice finished product. So reach out to 4A Printing. Tell him that Meryl and Jonathan from One Last Cast podcast sent you. Also, knock and tail lures, our favorite soft plastics. Definitely this fall into the winter, I'll be using those knock and tail lures, those 5 inchers, those larger profile knock and tail lures. Definitely be using those plenty during the winter. Um, and they just have that nice action. Also have the internal rattle built in, drives the fish crazy. Go to knockandtailors.com and you can just get yourself a package of those. Also, Dirty South Kayak Anglers, if you're looking for a Facebook group to talk kayaking and fishing with, all up and down in Texas coast, even freshwater. I think a lot of people fish freshwater in there as well. Search up DSKA or Dirty South Kayak Anglers. And of course, Brittany Selesky, if you're looking for real estate here in Houston, whether commercial or residential, give Brittany a call. That's Meryl's lovely wife. You can reach her at 281-740-0498 or brittanyselesky@gmail.com. And of course, definitely wanted to give another reminder that if you wanted to win a Shimano reel valued up to $300, I left our website in our chat here, but you can go to onelastcastpodcast.com, go to the blog section, and there's a September 2024 contest. Gives you instructions on how to win. All you do is like our Facebook page, send us a picture at onelastcastpodcast@gmail.com, or you can message us on our Facebook page, one last cast facebook.com /one last cast podcast. Talking too quickly here. You can also email us at onelastcastpodcast.com. Just send us a fishing picture. We'd love to see what you guys are catching, how you guys are doing out there. We'll use those pictures at the beginning of our slideshow that we have in the beginning of our stream. And of course, share the contest onto the Facebook page. Again, just go to onelastcastpodcast.com and you go to our blog and you can see how the instructions there. We'll be doing the drawing at the beginning of October. Whew. All right, Meryl. I've always definitely, whenever we end the show, I kind of wanted to change it up a bit, not end with like a little piece of wisdom, but I definitely want to say, tight lines out there. Good luck to everybody fishing. It's, you know, it's not about the destination; it's about the journey. Learn along the way. If you flip over, just flip back over and just get back on and keep fishing. And
Well,
let
I actually did write something
oh
that,
well, shoot.
yeah. So I was actually prepared this time. Out of the 54 episodes, I finally wrote something of wisdom by Socrates, and I'm not going to get to share that.
You won't get your next time. We'll save it for
Okay,
next
all right,
time,
next
Meryl.
time. All right, you got
All right.
it. Just teased it. All
Yeah.
right, but y'all take care,
Yeah.
guys.
I don't think he actually had anything to share. But anyways, bye.
I did it. No, I did it. I
All
did
right,
it.
guys. Y'all guys have tight lines. We'll see you next time and happy fishing.